welcome Mr. Supon Singh, our president of the KCYAA. So ខ្ញុំបាទសូមគោរពអញ្ជើញលោកបងពាន់ជាប្រធានសមាគមយុវជនខ្មែរប្រចាំខេត្តអវតារយើង
បាទជាបឋមសូមថ្វាយគុំបដិគុណគ្រប់ព្រះអង្គហើយសូមគោរពលោកពូលោកមីងទាំងអស់បាទថ្ងៃនេះយើងក៏ពិតយើងសង្ឃឹមថាមានយុវជនមកច្រើនប៉ុន្តែដោយសារថាម្នាក់ៗមានកម្មវិធីរវល់ប៉ុន្តែយើងបានបណ្ណាយើងធ្វើប៉ុណ្ណឹងយើងមានយុវជនបានចូលរួមច្រើនដែរហើយ so first of all I would like to pay my respect to the monks who is present in here and welcome everyone to the seminar today. We are expecting that there are more youth to participate, but unluckily today everyone busy with their work. So for today, we have this is the third session for the Khmer Youth Association Alberta that we have conducted a seminar, which our purpose is to provide education to all youth. Regardless Cambodian or non-Cambodian. អញ្ចឹងថ្ងៃនេះគឺជាថ្ងៃទី3ហើយដែលរៀងរាល់ឆ្នាំគឺយើងប្រារព្ធធ្វើកម្មវិធីសិក្ខាសាលាសម្រាប់យុវជនហើយមិនមែនសម្រាប់តែខ្មែរយើងទេគឺសម្រាប់ជនជាតិណាក៏ចូលរួមបានដែរ Who is the Khmer Canadian Youth Association of Alberta? បាទនរណាជាសមាគមយុវជនខ្មែរប្រចាំខេត្តបាតាហ្នឹង So the Khmer Youth Association of Alberta is a non-profit organization driven by its mission to promote and preserve the Cambodian culture to the Cambodian Canadian community through educational programs which encourage the physical, spiritual and social development of individuals, especially foster the sense of civic responsibilities of the youth in here. So this is background of the Khmer Canadian Youth Association of Alberta. So it's short history of the youth. So generally Khmer Canadian Youth Association of Alberta, which is a non-profit organization, was founded on May 4, 1994 by Cambodian Canadian youth in Alberta. So generally Cambodian people came here because of civil war in Cambodia. So we started in 1980 that year. A lot of Cambodians who came here as a refugee. And as we can see here, sponsoring family, extended family who came here. In Calgary now we have around 500 families. So our youth group, we have about 150 members, but generally it's not oftenly active, but we still have many things that we can organize together. Like yesterday we organized a movie night organized by David. It was great. Yeah. So as a youth, we see that living in Canada, we also have to enrich the concept of multiculturalism here. And many generations who were born and grown up in here, they still struggling to preserve their own identity, like Cambodian identity, because their parents are Cambodian. So for the youth, we try to bridge between their home country, I mean, all their parents and the Canada country together. This part is the main purpose of the Youth Association too. So like Calgary is one of the greatest cities in the world, and the Khmer Canadian Youth Association of Alberta is proud to be part of the development of youth within this city. And it is a vibrant nature of Calgary, and it is Canada's multiculturalism that has inspired us to do more work within this circumstance. So our key objective is want to promote a supportive environment which will encourage the development of grow our youth through recreational, and educational activities, and to preserve and promote the Cambodian culture, history, and tradition, to honor the power of the voice of youth and the importance of youth in our society. And last but not least, to foster and cultivate the cultural exchange and understanding between Canada and the Cambodian community, and especially to contribute to the Canadian spirit of multiculturalism. So this is our main purpose. So seminar today, it is education, health, and career of the youth. Last year we have a seminar about the power of youth in community development. It was great last year. And this year we focus on education and career. We have invited speakers from career researchers. I hope he's on his way. And also we have invited Manmeet Bula, but he just sent a message that he is at Edmonton right now for the government work, so he unable to attend to. And the goal of the seminar today is to gather youth for educational and awareness interaction, to empower youth in strengthening individual learning, career, and community engagement, to promote a stronger networks for youth in Alberta. And this is the detailed program. So I would like to give គោលបំណងនៃការដែលយើងធ្វើសិក្ខាសាលាថ្ងៃនេះគឺទី1គឺដើម្បីអប់រំដល់យុវជនទាក់ទងនឹងការអប់រំការសិក្សារៀនសូត្រហើយដើម្បីយើងជជែកគ្នារកការចម្រើនរបស់គ្នាទី2គឺដើម្បីពង្រឹងកម្លាំងយុវជនឲ្យកាន់តែខ្លាំងជាពិសេសគឺទាក់ទងនឹងការងារការរៀនសូត្រជាដើមហើយចុងក្រោយគេគឺដើម្បីពង្រឹងទំនាក់ទំនងឲ្យបានច្រើនសម្រាប់យុវជនក្នុងខេត្ត Alberta ហើយសូម please applaud together and ទាស់ដៃទាំងអស់គ្នាដើម្បីឲ្យសត្វដល់យុវជនទាំងអស់បាទបាទគឺសម្រាប់ MC ហើយ Mr. Vice President, can you stand up so that everyone know? Yeah.
Thank you, Labong Puan. And unfortunately, Mr. Manmeet has an obligation to fulfill in Edmonton today. So for now, we'll start with our special guest speakers. Mr. Peter Hayes, his topic today will be talking about action for life.
Wrote about the smile of the Apsara.
កាលណាខ្ញុំមកជួបខ្មែរយើងទីនេះឃើញតែនិយមហើយនឹកចាំពីសិស្សសូវែដែលគាត់និយមជានិច្ចឬអប្សរាអញ្ចឹង
And one day in Cambodia on television they were talking to tourists and they said, what did you like about Cambodia? And they said, everybody smiles.
ហើយថ្ងៃមួយគេសួរ tourist ទៅស្រុកខ្មែរហ្នឹងវាមានអ្វីខ្លះសំខាន់ហើយគេនិយាយថាគឺប្រជាជនខ្មែរញញឹមជានិច្ច
I know if I tried to smile at everyone in Canada, they would put me in a hospital for people with.
សិនជាខ្ញុំញញឹមនៅកាណាដាវិញគេប្រហែលជាយកខ្ញុំទៅដាក់នៅពេទ្យហើយ
I've been asked to say something about the youth in Cambodia, and when you get off the plane in Phnom Penh, you see all these wonderful buildings and all the Lexus cars and all the wide boulevards, and you think everything is okay.
កាលណាយើងទៅដល់ភ្នំពេញយើងចុះទៅយើងឃើញឡានថ្មីៗយើងឃើញ building មើលទៅដូចជាអូខេទាំងអស់
But underneath there are many problems. The main one is the corruption. Also culture is sometimes a problem. And for the young people, they're trying to find how they can make Cambodia a better place.
ហើយប៉ុន្តែយើងមើលពីខាងក្រៅទៅវិញយើងឃើញថាជីវិតនៅស្រុកខ្មែរពោពេញទៅដោយការពុករលួយការលំបាកការយ៉ាប់យ៉ឺនរបស់យុវជនខ្មែរនៅទីនោះ
And one thing they're trying to do is to sit and listen to each other's stories, because they say there is history, but there's also his story.
ហើយជាសំខាន់គឺយើងស្ដាប់ប្រវត្តិគ្នាទៅវិញទៅមកហើយយើងស្ដាប់ប្រវត្តិរបស់គាត់ផងដែរ
And what's nice for me is that many of my young friends are now getting married, and so I always ask the parents, how did they get married?
ហើយមានយុវជនម្នាក់បានរៀបការខ្ញុំបានសួរពុកម្ដាយគេសួរថាតើគេរៀបការយ៉ាងម៉េច
And so it's often the first time that the young people have heard anything of the past life of their parents.
ដំបូងគឺបុគ្គលនោះគឺឮពីប្រវត្តិរបស់ឪពុកគេពីតាំងពីឪពុកម្ដាយគេកាលតាំងពីដើមមក
That's because many of the parents were in the labor camps during Khmer Rouge, and during their life in the camps they had to stay silent.
ព្រោះចំនួនប៉ុលពតចំនួនជំនុំនោះគឺថាពុកម្ដាយគេបានស្ងាត់ស្ងៀម
And so if they said anything, their children could report them to the authorities and they would be killed.
បើសិនជាគេនិយាយអ្វីត្រូវបានធ្វើរបាយការណ៍ហើយគេអាចត្រូវគេសម្លាប់
And so one of the things the young people are trying to do that I know is to start talking and sharing stories.
ចាប់ផ្ដើមដំបូងគឺថាយុវជនទាំងនោះត្រូវចាប់ផ្ដើមនិយាយពីប្រវត្តិទាំងអស់នោះ
And in Southeast Asia there is a lot of problems between Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia.
ហើយនៅម្ដុំយើងនោះគឺថាមានការបញ្ហាធ្ងន់រវាងខ្មែរហើយនិងថៃហ្នឹង
And one year I was
ទីយុវជនហើយមានពួកវៀតណាមម្នាក់បានឈរឡើង
And so I gave the story from the viewpoint of the Cambodians, and at the end of my talk the two girls were very, very angry and they were crying.
ហើយបន្តមកទៀតខ្ញុំនិយាយពីប្រវត្តិទៅនារីវៀតណាមនោះគឺបានចាប់ផ្ដើមខឹងខ្លាំងឡើង
They said, we also suffered because Khmer Rouge came into Vietnam and some of my family were also.
យើងក៏ចាប់ផ្ដើមចុកចាប់ដែរពីព្រោះពួកខ្មែរក្រហមក៏បានទៅស្រុកខ្ញុំហើយធ្វើទុកខាងប្រជាជនខ្ញុំដែរ
Cambodians who are in Phnom Penh and Battambang, they're doing a lot of social projects.
យុវជនខ្មែរនៅបាត់ដំបងនៅភ្នំពេញគេមាន project ជាច្រើនណាស់សម្រាប់សង្គម
Once a month they all get together at a centre and they raise money during the month and they buy food and they cook the food and then they take it out on their motorbikes around the market areas in Phnom Penh and they give the food to the young people and the older people who are going through the rubbish.
ក្មេងទាំងនោះយុវជនខ្មែរទាំងអស់នោះគេបានជួបជុំគ្នាហើយនាំគ្នាធ្វើម្ហូបយកម្ហូបនេះទៅដល់ចែកចាយប្រជាជនណាដែលគ្នាអត់ឃ្លាន
And twice a year in the Khmer Soviet hospital in Phnom Penh, there are a lot of HIV/AIDS and TB patients, and so our youth group, they go in there and they cook a meal for 400 patients.
ហើយបន្តមកទៀតយុវជននោះគឺបានយកម្ហូបអាហារទៅឲ្យប្រជាជនខ្មែរដែលឈឺនៅមន្ទីរពេទ្យសូវៀតដែលកើតជំងឺរបេងកើតជំងឺអេដយកម្ហូបទៅឲ្យជូនពួកនោះផងដែរ
And then in Takao province, there are very, very poor schools there with hundreds of students, and they can only study from January until June because their schools are on the bank of the river, and the river is flooded from September until January.
នៅក្រុងតូចមួយនៅតាកែវគេការសិក្សារបស់គេនឹងគេអាចសិក្សាពីខែ1ទៅដល់ខែ6ពីព្រោះខែ9ទៅដល់ខែ1ទឹកវាលិចវានៅជាប់នឹងទន្លេ
And so we go by boat down the river. We take all sorts of exercise and books and school supplies for about 500 children. plus bars of soap and toothpaste and things, and all the supplies are purchased by the young people who raise the money themselves.
យុវជនទាំងនោះនាំគ្នាជួយរកលុយហើយទិញរបស់ជាជំនួយដូចជាសភៅដូចជាថ្នាំដុតធ្មេញយកទៅជូនយកទៅឲ្យយុវជនណាដែលអត់
I'm very proud of the young people that I know because their lives are very complicated in Cambodia. The young men, especially the oldest, is responsible for the education of all the brothers and sisters in the family.
ខ្ញុំឃើញថានៅជាពិសេសនៅកម្ពុជាក្មេងៗជាពិសេសក្មេងធំមានច្រើនតែទទួលខុសត្រូវក្មេងតូចៗនៅក្នុងគ្រួសារ
And so money is always a big problem, but I've noticed that in Cambodia money goes around and around.
យើងជឿថាលុយមានបញ្ហាណាស់ប៉ុន្តែនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាលុយវារត់ចុះរត់ឡើងលុយនឹងរត់ជុំវិញ
I don't know if you know, but in Cambodia the poorer schools, their teachers are paid very, very low salary, usually about $30-40 a month.
នៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាប្រាក់ខែគឺតិចណាស់ជាពិសេសលោកគ្រូបានទទួលតែត្រឹម$30ទៅ$40ទេក្នុងមួយខែ
And so to increase their salary, they only teach half the curriculum. So then you have to pay to study for the other half.
ដូច្នេះគេបានបង្រៀនតែពាក់កណ្ដាលទេហើយតែរកលុយថែមទៀត
If you want to take an exam, you must pay for the paper.
បើអ្នកឯងចង់បានប្រឡងអ្នកឯងត្រូវតែបង់លុយសម្រាប់ការប្រឡងនោះ
And the teachers have a stall within the school playground where they sell food and supplies for the students.
ហើយលោកគ្រូក៏បានដាក់តុគ្រូម្ហូបសម្រាប់ឲ្យកូនសិស្សថែមទៀតដើម្បីរកលុយបន្ថែម
One of my young friends, he's a married man now with a child. He gets $80 a month. Luckily, he lives with his in-laws. And he said to the students, I will not ask you for any corruption. I will teach you the whole curriculum.
មានយុវជនក្មេងម្នាក់ដែលបង្រៀននឹងប្រាប់ខែគាត់គឺចំនួន$80ហើយគាត់បានប្រាប់កូនសិស្សថាខ្ញុំមិនយកលុយពីអ្នកឯងទេប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំនឹងបង្រៀនអ្នកឯងទៅតាមគម្រោងការរបស់ការគម្រោងប្លង់របស់ការសិក្សា
And even though he's a new teacher, he's well respected by all the students because they can trust him. ហើយកូនសិស្សទាំងអស់ដោយសារភាពរបស់គាត់នេះបានធ្វើឲ្យកូនសិស្សទាំងអស់ទុកចិត្តលើគាត់ Somebody today mentioned the railway station in Battambang, and I've got a young friend also married with a little child, and he's an orphan. And he raises money, and he has a little school for all the slum children who live around the Battambang railway station. ហើយមានយុវជនម្នាក់ដែលរស់នៅកន្លែងជនបទនៅតាមផ្លូវរទេះភ្លើងទៅបាត់ដំបងក៏ខំរកលុយដើម្បីជួយក្មេងៗដែលមានការលំបាកខ្លះដែរ There are a lot of individual people who are trying to do what they can to help society, and what I appreciate is that they want to live in Cambodia. They don't want to move. ជាពិសេសគឺថាមានមនុស្សមួយចំនួនខំប្រឹងប្រែងធ្វើការដើម្បីរកលុយជួយគ្នាទៅវិញទៅមកគេចង់រស់នៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាគេអត់ចង់ទៅទីប្រទេសកម្ពុជាទេ The big problem in Cambodia is that if you own land, and it was during Pol Pot time, you destroyed the documents because if you had documents you could die because you had land. នៅកម្ពុជាជាពិសេសចំនួនប៉ុលពតកាលណាយើងមានដីធ្លីមានកដាស់ស្នាមវាត្រូវចំនួនប៉ុលពតឬបំបត្តិចោល And so if there is a conflict between where is the border between two fields, nobody has a document. ដូច្នេះទីហោថាបើស្រែពីរមានតំណែងតំណងគ្នាយើងអត់មាន document ទេ And so there can often be violence between the families. ហើយជាទូទៅតែតែកើតអំពើហិង្សារវាពីគ្រួសារទាំងសងខាង And so some of my friends are part of a group that's called Alliance for Conflict Transformation. And what they do, they give workshops to the village people on how to solve problems without violence. ហើយយើងមានក្រុមមួយហៅថាក្រុមតោបង្កើតជាសេមីណាមួយដើម្បីជួយសម្រួលផ្នែកអំពើហិង្សានោះ So there are a lot of stories like this of friends in Cambodia. I know that there is all this corruption and the other negativity that goes along, but the young people that I know are really trying to make a difference in their society.
យើងដឹងហើយប្រទេសកម្ពុជាវាពោពេញទៅដោយភាពពុករលួយភាពលំបាកប៉ុន្តែក៏មានក្មេងយុវជនជាច្រើនខំប្រឹងរស់នៅខំប្រឹងជួយគ្នាទៅវិញទៅមកផងដែរ
And I've written to them to ask them for their websites and any addresses that they have of their programs, so that you can see them. And I think it would be really good if you could email them back and offer them encouragement, because it means a lot to them.
ជិតហើយបើយុវជនទាំងអស់នោះគឺថាខ្ញុំតែsẽជួយលើកទឹកចិត្តគេឲ្យគេមានអ៊ីមែលតាក់ទងគ្នាបើយើងអាចតាក់ទងតាមអ៊ីមែលបានយើងអាចលើកទឹកចិត្តគ្នានោះបានហើយ Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. And next will be another special guest speakers whose topic will be on building futures and trust from the book called Across the World Device by Janice Conkin, and the other part will be covered by Kur Agur.
Thank you very much. Thank you for people and for youth in particular.
ខ្ញុំថ្ងៃនេះចង់ជម្រាបជូនអ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាអំពីកម្មវិធីរបស់អង្គការខ្ញុំគេហៅថាអង្គការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរហ្នឹងចំពោះយុវជន
So first of all, to understand about initiatives of change, you have to understand that our organization has been in existence for over 90 years. Oops.
មុននឹងយើងចាប់ផ្ដើមអំពីការចាប់ផ្ដើមដំបូងនៃការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរនោះគឺថាអង្គការរបស់យើងខ្ញុំនឹងចាប់ផ្ដើមនៅឆ្នាំ40 right 40ឆ្នាំមកហើយ
And it's worldwide. It operates in over 100 countries.
ជាទូទៅក្នុងពិភពលោកទាំងមូល100ប្រទេស
including as Peter spoke about in Cambodia and in other areas of Asia.
ដែលជាប់ជាមួយលោក Peter នោះគាត់ធ្វើការខាងនោះដែរ
The underlying values that we ask people to honor are honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love.
តម្លៃនៃអង្គការយើងនឹងគឺតាក់ទងចំណុច4យ៉ាងទី1គឺការស្មោះត្រង់ទី2គឺភាពបរិសុទ្ធទី3គឺគ្មានលក្ខណៈចំណែនទី4គឺការស្រឡាញ់គ្នា
So all of the programs that we offer have these basic values as the base.
នេះគឺជាកម្មវិធីនៃភាពតម្លៃដំបូងនៃអង្គការរបស់ខ្ញុំ
So one of the first ones that we offer is for women, and it's called Women's Peace Circles.
កម្មវិធីទី1គឺយើងនិយាយអំពីស្ត្រីសន្តិភាពជុំវិញ
And these are for women only, although we're looking at also developing for men. But what we do is we work through a program with the women on how to heal their wounded memories from their history and build networks of support.
កម្មវិធីនេះក៏យើងអាចជួយខាងប្រុសៗផងដែរប៉ុន្តែខាងស្រីៗយើងជួយព្យាបាលទៅរបួសដែលមានកន្លងយូរមកហើយហើយយើងមានការស្ថាបនារចនាសម្ព័ន្ធជួយគ្នា
And what we do is get women to understand the value of how they help to build peace in their lives, in their children's lives, and in their communities.
យើងជួយនារីទាំងនោះឲ្យយល់ពីតម្លៃរបស់ខ្លួនដើម្បីរៀបចំជួយកសាងសន្តិភាពរបស់ខ្លួននិងកូនចៅរបស់គេផងដែរ
And at the end of the program, the women will often take on a support project in their community.
ហើយបន្តមកទៀតនៅចុងនៃកម្មវិធីនោះគឺនារីគឺរៀនអំពីការជួយឧបត្ថម្ភនៅក្នុងសហគមន៍របស់គេដែរ
These are just some photos to show you that it does operate worldwide. It started in Africa, and then it spread all around the world. This is a local group that we did here in Calgary. And we also did training in Edmonton. This is one in Guatemala. This is a lady who operates national reconciliation in Malaysia through the use of peace circles.
ចាប់ផ្ដើមដំបូងពីខាងអាហ្វ្រិកនេះក៏រូបមួយនៅខាងកាល់ហ្វីអេដមន្តុនយើងនៅវ៉ាតេម៉ាឡាហើយបន្តមកទៀតនៅតូរ៉ុនតូអូស្ត្រាលីនិយាយអំពីការជួយគ្នាដើម្បីឆ្ពោះទៅរកសន្តិភាព
Another program that we have is called Community Trust Building through workshops and honest conversations. And
កម្មវិធីមួយទៀតគឺការស្ថាបនាការទុកចិត្តគ្នាក្នុងសហគមន៍ដែលតាមរយៈសេមីណានិងការសន្ទនាគ្នាដោយស្មោះត្រង់
And our other guest, Pur, is going to speak to the program, the trust building program that we ran with the South Sudanese from Jonglei State here in Calgary just last week. Where? លោកខាងនោះគាត់នឹងឡើងនិយាយអំពីការស្ថាបនាភាពស្មោះត្រង់នៅសហគមន៍អាហ្វ្រិកបន្តិចទៀត So these are just some pictures of various programs, trust building workshops that we ran here in Calgary. នេះជាឧទាហរណ៍មួយនៃសិក្ខាសាលាដែលនិយាយអំពីការស្ថាបនាការទុកចិត្តគ្នានៅក្នុង Calgary. Part of the trust building is workshops are based on these videos called The Imam and the Pastor and An African Answer. មួយទៀតគឺតាមរយៈសិក្ខាសាលានេះកម្មវិធីអំពីអ៊ីម៉ាមខាងសាសនាអ៊ីស្លាមហើយនិង pastor ខាងសាសនាគ្រីស្ទាន So a part of the trust building is having an honest conversation, being able to recognize our own faults, to apologize for things we may have done wrong, and to not only ask for forgiveness but to offer forgiveness. យើងសិក្ខាសាលានេះគឺបង្រៀនឲ្យយើងចេះសុំទោសគ្នាអត់ទោសឲ្យគ្នាហើយរៀនទៅតាម field ដែលឈ្មោះគេគឺ Imam and Pastor. And lastly, this program was developed here in Calgary by myself and another team, and this is specifically for youth. This is called the Compass Program. What direction is your life going? កម្មវិធីបន្តមកទៀតគឺកម្មវិធីយុវជននិយាយអំពីទិសដៅរបស់យុវជនឈ្មោះ Compass Program. So in this program we ask the youth to look at different elements that define who they are and at this particular moment in their life who they want to become in the future and to understand how those two are connected. កម្មវិធីនេះគឺបង្រៀនយុវជនឲ្យយល់ដឹងអំពីលក្ខណៈបច្ចុប្បន្ននៅក្នុងជីវិតរបស់គេឲ្យគេយល់អំពីលក្ខណៈទៅអនាគតផងដែរ And as part of that program we examine their fears, the values, the passions that they have, in other words what they feel like they want to do with their life, who are their role models, in order to define a life vision. កម្មវិធីដែលយើងបានសិក្សាអំពីការប្តីខ្លាចអំពីតម្លៃអំពីការចង់បានអំពីគំរូហើយនឹងឲ្យតម្លៃជីវិតរបស់យើងទៅអនាគត And then we ask them to determine to look at where they want their life to go in relation to the community around them and to their whole social fabric, to the city and to their community. Now, I put a quote there, what one girl said after having taken the program. She said, "At this point in my life, I am looking for direction and hoping to be led onto the right path. I am realizing that a good life is created through good decisions, and the Compass program helped me to elucidate my core values and goals." នេះជាឧទាហរណ៍មួយឈ្មោះនាងនីកូលដែលនិយាយអំពីផលមួយដែល
ជោគជ័យមួយដែលគ្នាបានចូលតាមប្រូក្រាមនាងបាននិយាយថានៅក្នុងចំណុចនេះជីវិតរបស់ខ្ញុំគឺបានរកឃើញនៅទិសដៅមួយនឹងការសង្ឃឹមមួយដែលនាំឲ្យខ្ញុំទៅរកផ្លូវដែលត្រូវហើយខ្ញុំចាប់ផ្ដើមយល់ថាជីវិតល្អតែកើតឡើងតាមរយៈការសម្រេចចិត្តល្អហើយនឹងកម្មវិធី Compass នេះធ្វើឲ្យខ្ញុំមានតម្លៃហើយឲ្យខ្ញុំយល់ពីទិសដៅរបស់ខ្ញុំ
And these are just some of the students who took our Compass program over the last 4 years.
នេះគឺកម្មវិធី Compass នេះរបស់យុវជនដែលបានចូលកម្មវិធីនេះក្នុងរយៈ 4 ឆ្នាំកន្លងមក
And many of the students continue to get together and have formed some very strong bonds.
ហើយរីទាំងអស់នេះបានបន្តនៅការតាក់ទងគ្នាឲ្យមានជំរឹងចលនាតាក់ទងគ្នាដល់ល្អ
And that's all for
នេះគឺតែប៉ុណ្្នឹងទេ
Thank you everyone.
អរគុណទាំងអស់គ្នា
My name is Greg.
ខ្ញុំឈ្មោះគាត់
Hello.
លោក
So my name is Greg and I'm originally from South Sudan, in East Africa.
ខ្ញុំឈ្មោះគាត់គឺខ្ញុំមកពីស៊ូដានប្រទេសស៊ូដានខាងត្បូង
I would like to say thank you to Janice because she invited me to say a word or two at this conference.
ខ្ញុំសូមជាដំបូងខ្ញុំសូមអរគុណលោកស្រីចាណាដែលបានអញ្ជើញខ្ញុំមកដើម្បីរៀបរាប់ពីអ្វីដែលខ្ញុំនឹងត្រូវនិយាយ
I would also want to say thank you to the organizers of this workshop for allowing me to speak in front of them and thank you for listening to what I will have to say.
ហើយក៏អរគុណចំពោះអ្នកដែលរៀបចំកម្មវិធីនេះដែរហើយអរគុណដល់អ្នកទាំងអស់គ្នាដែលនឹងរងចាំស្ដាប់អ្វីដែលខ្ញុំនឹងនិយាយ
Like I just heard from the very first introductions from Peter and some of the introductions that were put up here by Safan regarding the civil war that ran from 1970 to 1991 in the Cambodia.
ខ្ញុំបានស្ដាប់អំពីការរៀបរាប់របស់លោក Peter លោកសុផនអំពីសង្គ្រាមដែលកើតឡើងនៅក្នុងរយៈពេលឆ្នាំ 70 នោះ
I come from like we're all human beings and I was very surprised to see the striking similarity between what may have happened in Cambodia to what happened in my home country.
ខ្ញុំវាដូចជាអស្ចារ្យដែរឃើញថាការតំណាក់តំណងគ្នានេះកើតឡើងបញ្ហាកើតឡើងនៅកម្ពុជាវាសម្រៀងគ្នានៅក្នុងប្រទេសខាងស៊ូដានខាងត្បូងដូចគ្នា
To make this a brief account of what I have had to go through, South Sudan and Sudan as a whole before the split last year went through 2 main civil wars in the space of 50 years.
គឺខាងផ្នែកស៊ូដាននិងខាងស៊ូដាននិងស៊ូដានខាងត្បូងត្រូវបានចូលទៅក្នុងសង្គ្រាមស៊ីវិលដែលបានហើយមានសង្គ្រាមចំនួន 50 ឆ្នាំ
So in 1983 the second civil war started and I was born 5 years later at the height of the war and all I have known for the better part of my life is been conflict, tragedy and sorrow. 1983 is when
ខ្ញុំបានកើតឡើងនៅឆ្នាំ 1993
So what happened is there are 2 main elements to this conflict. There was the operation by the central government in the north. As a result of that, everyone in the south felt alienated from the political process of the whole country and from the management of the resources, and so they took arms to liberate themselves. So 21 or 22 years later, in 2005, the two parts of the country, they signed a peace agreement, and 6 years later, the South separated from the rest of the country. 22 years.
22 ឆ្នាំកន្លងមកហើយប្រទេសទាំងពីរនោះបានចែកជាពីរខាងត្បូងនិងខាងជើង
During that whole period of 2 decades, what had happened is the lives and property were lost in the conflict between the two rival parts of the country, but also the North chose to use Southerners to heal themselves.
ហើយសង្គ្រាមនេះវាកើតឡើងមានការបាត់បង់ដីធ្លីហើយបានខាងជើងនោះបានធ្វើឲ្យខាងត្បូងនឹងមានការសង្គ្រាមខ្លួនឯងដែរ
In my state of birth, called John Lay State, the effect of South-South conflicts, where the North turned us against each other, was felt more than in the rest of the states, just because of the ethnic heterogeneity of that state. At least 6 ethnic groups live in this state.
កន្លែងនេះជាម្ដុំសង្គ្រាមដែលខ្ញុំរស់នៅដែលមានសង្គ្រាមរវាង North and South.
So you can see in John Lay State, there is one group we call the Nuer, and there is another group we call the Dinka. There's another group we call the Morle. There's another group we call Jie, and there should be another group we call where is it? Anuak, and there's another group we call Chipo. So there are many ethnic groups living in this area, and as a result, the North could easily exploit the ethnic fault lines between the different groups.
នេះគឺជាក្រុមជនជាតិភាគតិចដូចញឿដូចឌីងកាដូចអាញឿគឺថាដែលពួកខាងជើងនឹងវាមានការកេងប្រវ័ញ្ចនៅកន្លែងនេះ
So what the effect of that was is we came to know one another as enemies.
So
and not as citizens.
សំខាន់គឺថាយើងស្គាល់គ្នាជារបៀបសត្រូវមិនមែនស្គាល់គ្នាជារបៀបប្រជាជនទេ
Why I'm standing in front of you today is to offer a testimony about what happened last weekend, the weekend of May 12-13. We had the opportunity to attend a workshop organized by the IFC and led by Janice, and that's why I'm here today.
ខ្ញុំមកពីនេះថ្ងៃនេះគឺចង់ជម្រាបអ្នកអំពីសិក្ខាសាលាដែលធ្វើឡើងដោយអ្នកស្រី Janice នៅ May 12, right? ខែ5ខែទី12
So during that workshop, it was all about trust building, and to me, for the first time in my life, I had witnessed the warring rival groups from John Lay State sharing tables, exchanging pleasantries, and talking honestly one another.
ដែលខ្ញុំរៀនពីសិក្ខាសាលាកន្លងមកតាមអ្នកស្រី Janice នោះគឺនិយាយអំពីការរៀនអំពីការស្ថាបនាស្មោះត្រង់ហើយខ្ញុំបានរៀនពីខាងនោះហើយយើងបាននិយាយគ្នាដោយស្មោះត្រង់
So such conferences had been organized before, both in the Sudan and outside the Sudan, but the way they were conducted was different, and that's what made Janice's workshop or the IFC's workshop very, very, very important to me.
យើងមានសិក្ខាសាលាខ្លះដែរនៅក្រៅសុដានក្នុងសុដានប៉ុន្តែសិក្ខាសាលាដែលយើងបានរៀនល្អប្រសើរនឹងតាមរយៈអ្នកស្រី Janice
and that was not as effective in building the trust between people.
ពីមុនដំបូងខ្ញុំដែលបានរៀនខុសពីការសិក្ខាសាលានៅស៊ូដាននិងសិក្ខាសាលាដែលខ្ញុំរៀនអាទិត្យកន្លងទៅគឺថារៀនអំពីដើមយើងមានគេថាថ្នាក់ដឹកនាំគេនិយាយគ្នាមិនឲ្យថ្នាក់ក្រោមយល់ពីគ្នាបានប៉ុន្តែឥឡូវនេះយើងអាចរៀននិយាយពីគ្នាយល់ពីគ្នាបង្កើតភាពស្មោះត្រង់
So sitting with people who 2 or so decades ago may have been responsible for burning down villages where I came from and killing close relatives and my childhood friends, that was quite challenging. But the end effect was fruitful. For the first time, we were able to engage in an honest conversation, and I think that has kick-started a real trust-building and peace movement for my people.
ការរៀនការនៅក្នុងសិក្ខាសាលាដែលយើងអង្គុយជិតគ្នាមើលខាងមកខាងដែលធ្លាប់សម្រាប់គ្រួសារយើងហើយយើងនិយាយជាមួយគ្នាទៅវិញទៅមកបង្កើតភាពស្មោះត្រង់វាជាការមួយដែលធ្វើឲ្យយើងពិបាកណាស់ប៉ុន្តែកាលណាយើងធ្វើយូរទៅយើងអាចបង្កើតភាពចម្រើនបានស្គាល់គ្នាបាននៅភាពស្មោះត្រង់
We learn concepts like healing of wounded memories, and that to me and to many of the participants was a turning point.
ដូច្នេះការសិក្សានៅក្នុងសិក្ខាសាលានេះវាជាផ្នែកជាចំណុចមួយដែលចាប់ផ្ដើមឲ្យយើងឲ្យឃើញថាឲ្យយើងរួចពីជំងឺរបស់យើងដែលធ្លាប់រងគ្រោះ
We learned that the peace and trust building among our different ethnic groups from Jonglei State and the rest of my country, we should start to own peacemaking instead of waiting for others to create that peace.
ចំណុចសំខាន់គឺថាការកសាងសន្តិភាពការកសាងភាពស្មោះត្រង់នោះគឺយើងត្រូវធ្វើរួមគ្នាបង្កើតគឺចេញពីខ្លួនយើង
And for the first time, I have seen a level of enthusiasm among members of my community to move toward a direction of peace unlike any other time before.
ហើយខ្ញុំក៏ឃើញនៅសង្គមខ្ញុំចាប់ផ្ដើមតម្រង់ទៅរកផ្លូវសន្តិភាពដែលខ្ញុំមិនដែលឃើញពីមុនមកទេ
So in a nutshell, the only reason I'm here today is to say that if you need trust, if you need peace, if you need healing and reconciliation, this should be a very, very good program to try. You will be surprised how much you learn and how willing you will be pursuing change in your lives.
ដូចជាសម្រួលទៅវិញគឺថាអ្វីដែលយើងចង់រៀនអំពីសន្តិភាពការស្រស់ស្រួលគ្នាយើងត្រូវនាំគ្នាធ្វើឲ្យបាននោះវាជាការប្រសើរឡើងនៅក្នុងសង្គមរបស់យើង
Thank you.
សូមអរគុណ
Thank you, Cure and Janice, for a wonderful speech today. And right now, we come across to a question and answers time. So, if any one of you would like to have a question for our guest speakers, we will have your time to do so. So, អរគុណទៅដល់ Janice ហើយនិង Cure ដែលបានផ្ដល់នៅ speech ដែលល្អបំផុតហើយដែលមានអត្ថន័យខ្ពស់បំផុតហើយក្នុងពេលនេះដែរយើងក៏បានឈានចូលទៅដល់ខណៈពេលដែលយើងអាចសួរសំណួរហើយពួកគាត់នឹងអាចបន្តនៅជាចម្លើយទៅកាន់ពួកយើងមកវិញដែរ
What I would like to ask you what is the hard thing to reconcile with your own enemy, especially Cambodian, as you said, my brother killed my father, whatever. You know, it's very hard. You know, and how we can work toward reconciliation. You understand, right? សំណួរខ្ញុំចង់សួរថាចេះតើយើងសម្រួលជាមួយសត្រូវយើងយ៉ាងដូចម្ដេចនៅពេលដែលយើងឃើញថាបងសម្រាប់អូនពូសម្រាប់នេះឧទាហរណ៍ដូចនៅស្រុកខ្មែរយើងអញ្ចឹងតើការសម្រួលគ្នាជាមួយសត្រូវនោះវារបៀបណា Hello Hello
Hello. So I'd like to respond to that question this way. What I find is that it's on human nature to find reconciliation as something that's very difficult. But from what I discovered last weekend, we have to be bold enough to to break down the first barriers to reconciliation. And one of those normally is the lack of communication and dialogue. So that's the very first one. If you're going to pursue healing, reconciliation, you will need to break down the wall of lack of communication. That is often the first barrier. Once you are past that, you will need to engage in an honest dialogue with the person you would want to reconcile with. Honesty is mandatory, and honesty is essential. Beyond that, I normally think that pursuing healing and reconciliation is the boldest thing you can do. Because, you know, when it comes to conflict, I learned through that workshop, there are two paths that you can pursue. The one is where you can engage in dialogue, where you can engage in, where you can accept your part of the mistake and apologize for it, and expect the other party should be able to do their part as well, because it's not a one-way thing. It has to be two-way. So once that happens, you can move on to a trajectory of healing where you can forgive one another and pursue a different relationship of mutual progress together in the process of healing. The other one is where you can hang on to the bitterness, and is where you can engage in trying to do the revenge and stay in that cycle. All it does is returns you to your initial point. So break down the first wall, move past there, and you should be able to heal and move forward together. It's normally the first time when you fear and then you don't want to initiate communication. That's when it seems like you're stuck in that place forever. But once you engage in an honest conversation with someone, you should be able to move forward. Even that by itself, it emboldens both of you, gives you more courage and confidence between the parties. So that's what I think, and that's what is occurring in my community right now as a result of last weekend's workshop. Thank you.
បើសិនជាយើងមិននិយាយជាមួយគ្នាដោយស្មោះត្រង់ទេដូច្នេះភាពគំនុំនឹង
And half of them, they said, were very quiet.
ហើយខ្លះទៀតក៏ស្ងៀមដែរ
And then they did the same to the Cambodian group. They said, are they all quiet?
ហើយគេសួរទៅកម្ពុជានឹងកនឯងស្ងាត់ស្ងៀមម្ល៉េះ
And they identified quite a few of them who they said were louder than the Vietnamese.
ហើយគេក៏សំដៅទៅមកក្រុមនោះក៏និយាយខ្លាំងជាងពួកវៀតណាមផង
And the Vietnamese thought the Cambodians were lazy people. They did not like working.
ហើយប្រជាជនវៀតណាមគេគិតថាប្រជាជនកម្ពុជាជាប្រជាជនខ្ជិលអត់ចង់ធ្វើការ
And they said, we love working, but there's no work. So how can we work?
ហើយគេพูดនឹងគេថាយើងចង់ធ្វើការប៉ុន្តែអត់មានការងារទេ
And so the lady talked about reality and our perceptions of each other and the gap that is between those two things.
ដូច្នេះទាំងពីរអ្នកនឹងនិយាយអ្វីដែលមិនគ្រប់គ្រាន់និយាយអ្វីដែលមិនខ្វះខាតតែសងខាងជាមួយគ្នា
And how it's important to bring those two things together so that there is no gap.
ដូច្នេះកាលណាយើងធ្វើអញ្ចឹងយើងអាចនាំមកជួបគ្នាបំពេញនៅចន្លោះដែលយើងមានកន្លងមក
And at the end of the 10 days, they all got on the same bus with the Cambodians, and instead of sitting separately, they were sitting next to each other, and they were singing songs that they learned from each other's place, all the way to Phnom Penh.
ហើយ10ថ្ងៃកន្លងមកគេបានជិះរថយន្តក្រុងមួយគេជិះជិតគ្នាហើយគេបានច្រៀងជាមួយគ្នារហូតដល់រថយន្តនេះនាំគេកាន់ទៅដល់ទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញ
And so it's interesting because that one girl was brave enough to tell the truth from her point of view, she was able to cause this success.
ហើយនារីមួយបានក្រោកឡើងនិយាយដល់ក្លាហានថានេះជាការជោគជ័យរបស់យើង
And so now these Cambodian young people and Vietnamese go back and forth because it's easy now to move between Phnom Penh
Hello.
and Ho Chi Minh.
យុវជនវៀតខ្មែរយុវជនវៀតណាមគេទាំងអស់នោះគាត់ថាមានការងាយស្រួលក្នុងការឆ្លងកាត់ពីប្រទេសវៀតណាមទៅខ្មែរខ្មែរទៅវៀតណាម
And they come up to Cambodia to be with their friends at their weddings.
ហើយទៅមកប្រទេសខ្មែរខាងវៀតណាមមកប្រទេសខ្មែរមកដូចថាចូលរួមរៀបអាពាហ៍ពិពាហ៍
Unfortunately, the Vietnamese are not so interested in marriage, so we haven't been going the other way yet.
ចាហើយខាងវៀតណាមគេមិនសូវចូលចិត្តរៀបអាពាហ៍ពិពាហ៍ទេធ្វើឲ្យខ្មែរយើងមិនសូវចូលចិត្តទៅមើលខាងដែរអរគុណ
Thank you for a very great speech. I have a question. Hey, yes. Peter, right?
Peter.
I think I call you Peter.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So we have a lot of things for education, for youth, and for everyone today. So about conflict resolution in Cambodia is very important thing that I would like to ask you because you have been in Cambodia several years and also you work in this field. And what I heard from you this moment is very interesting between Cambodian and Vietnamese because we have embedded very bad history between these two countries. And for me as younger generation, we try to find out the way that we can be together because Vietnam cannot take the country away from Cambodia to stay to relocate another place. And Cambodia cannot take this land to relocate another place as well. So these two nations must stay together. But part of conflict resolution, I don't go beyond on between country and country, but just between Cambodian and Cambodian. Because what we have been experiencing in Cambodia since until now, even though we don't have war, but we still have a lot of conflict and we still have a lot of things that we want to build trust. So in order to finish with